Arfield, 1-0 Burnley. Scott Arfield, he's been threatening that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. Here's Sir Rory now. On the outside, decent.
He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Sir Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes, and Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly, finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell, saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
Only by Paul Teller, off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day, and Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson, and he go on the outside, comes inside, top shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarence deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello and welcome along to the latest instalment of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redman, ahead of this weekend's clash against Sunderland at Turf Moor. Obviously, a fellow promoted side, but a fellow promoted side that had quite the better start than we did, obviously winning 3-0 at home against West Ham. They joined Leeds, who also won, obviously they won later in the week, to be fair, on Monday, who won against Everton at home. We were the only promoted side that lost. However, I will caveat that by saying Tottenham away is a little bit more difficult than West Ham or Everton at home. But Sunderland, in fairness to them, did look impressive. And as usual, I'm pleased to introduce Graham from the What the Fork Sunderland podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, mate. I'll let you know on Sunday, but this week I'm flying. Yeah, really well.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're flying. We're not so much. Sunderland are flying. So you obviously beat West Ham 3-0 at the Stadium of Light, as I just mentioned their introduction. But one thing I did find, which I found quite interesting, and we have just mentioned it on your podcast. If you want to go and check that out, you can. I will try and put a link in the description. I say that quite often to people, and I always forget because my memory is awful. But just looking at the stats, there's a stat that matters as you won 3-0, right? And I know there's some people that listen to this podcast that hate it when I talk about XG. But Sunderland's XG was 0.68. And that, if you're winning 3-0, you're expecting to pretend, well, if I'm hearing that Sunderland win 3-0, I'm checking the XG, I'm expecting it to be at least 1.5, something like that, 1.3, something like that. Your possession was 37%. So I'm looking at them stats and thinking, was they a little bit fortunate? However, you did have a higher XG than West Ham, to be fair. So you obviously created more than them. They did have a lot more of the ball. But is that just kind of like the way that you set up, let teams have the ball? Because you did that to us at the Stadium of Light last season, that you let us have the ball and then just hit us on the attack and then won that game. And then, as you said on your show, set yourself up quite nicely for the season. But is that just sort of like a style of play, or were you fortunate to win the game 3-0?
No, I mean, look, first half, I would say West Ham probably edged it. I'm not going to lie to you, but they didn't really create too much. There was a chance for Jared Bowen, but it was kind of a self-made chance where he cuts in. And look, Jared Bowen's a great player. He cuts in. It's a really good save made by Robin Roofs, the new goalkeeper. But the best chance of the first half probably came from ourselves, which was Habib Diarra's chance. Nice little 1-2. Breaks in, hits a shot. Good save from the West Ham keeper. Second half, I think the chances we had were, you could probably say half chances, the first two. The first one, Mayenda gets in between two players and puts the header in. More desire to win it. It's a nice little deft header. The second one, you're not going to beat Dan Ballard in the air. So if the ball's going to hit his head, that's going to go in the top corner. And then Wilson does what he did a lot last season, cuts in onto his left, very similar to the goal he scored against Coventry in the home leg of the playoffs, and puts it in the bottom corner. But I think, to answer the question, is it kind of similar to our style of play? It's not unusual. I think he's quite adaptable. We don't have the one style, but I would definitely say his preferred style seems to be, as I was saying on the podcast we just did, it's not so much sitting back, or as the hipsters call it, the low block. It's that kind of, when you've got the ball, don't take any massive risks. And if you've got a chance to hit a team on the break, use it. Like our team especially the team now, is full of pace and power. That's kind of our main strength. My end is like really, really fast. Wilson's a bit of a whippet when he wants to be. Adingra looks speedy, and Talby looks really fast. So it kind of plays into our strengths a little bit. And most of the time, whilst it wasn't, look, the game against Burnley was just us sitting there, and the game against Middlesbrough and the game against Coventry, both home and away, was a lot of the time we're sitting there going, will you break us down? You do what you think you can do, and we'll just try and pick you off and hit you on the break. And to be honest, it's a risky style of play, but it worked. And it worked last week, and it worked a really good effect. But look, it was a combination of that and also being clinical. Like the chances we got, we made sure were. And they weren't, I mean, the first two were the really chances. 2 headers really well won. Desire to win the ball, and the third one's a nice little finish from Wilson, which is something we've seen him do before. So yes and no, mate. Yes and no.
Yeah, I remember that Coventry game that you referenced. Obviously, it was the Championship playoff semi-final. Coventry fans had a meltdown with the shock, by the way. Coventry fans love a meltdown, don't they? I remember we won. We won not long before you at that stadium, about a month or so before you, and the exact same thing happened. They had a meltdown when we were all walking out. But yeah, you're right there. You kind of like just say to the opposition, break us down if you can, and when you get into the zones and when you get players forward, we will then hit you on the break. However, are you expecting to set up like that against Burnley? Because I think you probably can, with it being an away game. But with you, if it was at the Sol, for example, I'm not sure you would do. How are you expecting to set up this weekend at Turf Moor? Are you expecting something similar?
It wouldn't shock me if it was, but it's a funny one, because last season you could say Burnley are the favourites in both games, because third game of the season, I think it was last season, we weren't probably expected to be doing as well as we did at that point. I don't think we were many people's favourites to go up. So you could kind of say sitting back and trying to pick you off and taking our chances when they come made sense. And even when we played you at Turf Moor, like, we weren't the favourites to win that. But I think it worked really well both times. But I couldn't tell you why it worked really well both times. And to be honest, I think we had 8 debutants, including players off the bench on Saturday. So it's a massively different team. There's parts of me that would like to see us go at Burnley, because I think on paper we both probably feel like this is a game we could win. I think naturally most are going to feel like that against both of us all season, whether we like it or not, because we're newly promoted. And I think for some reason people think Leeds are going to finish 10th. They will finish 10th now. I've said that, but
there's no sense. They've done a couple of decent bits of business since the weekend, but they needed a striker. I'm not sure if someone that they've just brought in is a striker. I'm not sure on DCL. He says after signing Brozier, but I feel like he's got too many injury issues. But yeah, I think some Leeds will do very well to finish outside the relegation zone, as any of us will. But anyway,
yeah, absolutely. No, not at all. I think possibly, to work twice against Burnley, I can see him doing it again, because I think looking at the fixtures you've got after us, it's probably, is there a must-win 2 games in? Maybe, because both of us have ambitions to finish at least 17th. So probably because of the fact that we're both going to be in and around there, whether we both stay up or whether we both go down, or whether one of us stays up and one of us goes down, we're going to be around there towards the end of the season. None of us are going to finish in the top 10 clear. The best we can probably hope for is 2 games before the end being safe. So the game is probably a must-win, or at least a must-not-lose, I would say. But because you lost the opening game of the season, the caveat being Spurs is a harder game than West Ham, and we won, there's probably a little bit less pressure on us to have to win the game. We could probably get a draw and be happy with it, which means that we might do that again, sit back a bit, soak up as much pressure as we can, and then just try and take advantage of any little gaps that we can break. But then Burnley are good defensively, and I know Saturday he lost 3-0, but Spurs, and some of the goals were really good goals from Richarlison. You can't really do much about it.
Yeah. Although the first goal was a good goal from Richarlison, the second one was a better one. But there was issues with that first goal that I thought we could have been tighter to him. He peels away from the defenders too easily. He does the classic striker, pretends to run in, pulls back, and then he's in 2 yards of space. Too easy, lads. But it's a relatively new defence. Well, it's a new defence apart from Steve. Let's be fair. So maybe they're taking a little while to get used to each other. We will see. Obviously, one of the main talking points regarding Sunderland in the summer is the fact that you've been very, very, very busy in the transfer market. Just over £140 million spent, I think it is, according to this that I'm looking at. Obviously, you brought in Diarra, Adingra. Obviously, Enzo Lefebvre, I know he was there last season, but that was the obligation, I think, or option.
Yeah,
or something.
it was.
But obviously,
yeah.
You got Talby as well from Club Brugge, Siddiqui, Granit Xhaka, who I think is a brilliant bit of business. And the list just goes on and on. I'm still scrolling and on. So, yeah, what have you thought of Sunderland's business then? Because I'll be honest, when you kept signing players that I'd never heard of, and that says more about me than Sunderland's recruitment team, obviously. And I remember thinking, this is what Burnley did 2 years ago, and it didn't work. It's not going to work for Sunderland. Then you brought in Granit Xhaka. Then I was like, maybe they've got a little bit more nous than we had. Because like I said, we brought in all these unknowns from Europe. I say unknowns for the Premier League. They'd never played in the Premier League. And they came over to the Premier League and they didn't like it. They couldn't hack it. They didn't like the physicality. Some of them weren't good enough. And yeah, obviously we went down with an absolute whimper under Vincent Kompany in the Premier League season. But Sunderland looked like, obviously with the comfortable win against West Ham, that they might have done it a little bit better than Burnley. And obviously, as I've said, you brought in the experience in the likes of Granit Xhaka as well. So what have you made of Sunderland's business?
I think first and foremost, I was shocked at how much we spent. I think we're now officially the highest spending Premier League, newly promoted Premier League team of all time. I think we've kind of just beaten Forest by a couple of mil, and there's a bit of 28 million apparently gone in for another centre back today. So did I expect us to spend the best part of 160, 170 million? Absolutely not, because well, no one's done it before, but I think there is a caveat to the fact that, like, I think 50 million is a new 20 million. Like, everyone's going for,
of course,
50 mil. So it's like, there is also that, like, when I first seen how much we were spending, I was like, wow. Like, then you see what other clubs are spending and you go, oh, okay, that's just like what other teams maybe buy as a bench player. But I think the biggest thing for me is we've done two really important things. I think first and foremost, we've been quite ruthless, which we've done as we've came through the divisions, which hasn't always felt comfortable, getting rid of players that you really like. And not to say that we got rid of them, but we brought in, like, Patrick Roberts. If we bring in another winger, which apparently you want, is going to struggle getting the first team. Now, I love Patrick. Like, I'm his biggest fan, but it feels quite ruthless in the fact that Dan Neils has the captaincy, not taken away from him, but like Xhaka's came in and taken the captaincy after he's just been promoted. But we've probably looked out a little bit in the sense that we got like 35 mil for Job and 10 million for Tommy Watson. So there's 45 million on two players who I think they would have done well in the Premier League. You can't guarantee it. And we've replaced them with players in terms of like Xhaka, a player that you know is going to do well, and Adingra, who, in my opinion, at the moment is a better player on paper, though Watson might change that. But the two big things for me that they've done is they haven't just gone with the young players. The one bad transfer window we had under this regime was when we just went specifically just young players, and that was it. Players under the age of 24 with a potential high resale value. We haven't just done that. We have done it, but we brought in Xhaka, we brought in Alderete, who's come from Getafe. Adingra's young, but he has Premier League experience. And Mark Hughes came in, who's a very, very young boy, but he had Premier League experience last year, albeit a very, very small amount. So they've done that, which is good. But the biggest confidence I've got is that whenever I've doubted Sunderland's recruitment team, and there's been many, many times because I'm a football fan, my opinion changes on a weekly basis or every weekend. You know, it's like they've recruited really well since they've been here, and they seem to have this kind of plan where they'll only sign a player if they know that they're most likely are going to do the business. I think they've understood last season you need to add experience to it. You know, last year we brought in Alan Brown and Simon Moore as the backup goalkeeper. They were the two experienced players we brought in, and it made such a difference to the dressing room, just having a bit more experience in there. Chris Mepham came in. Obviously, we didn't sign him in the end, but he came on in the playoff final, did exceptionally well. I think we've probably signed players that are better than him, which sounds really harsh, but I would have had no issue with them coming back. I think the signing of Granit Xhaka, I was desperate for us to sign Jordan Henderson because I thought he offered leadership. Yeah, okay, he's not the player he used to be, but I thought he offered leadership. He offered talent, know-how of the Premier League, know-how of the football club. If you told me that Granit Xhaka was a possibility over Henderson, I would have said, get yourself Burnley, Brentford even. Like, no worries. Like, Hendo, get yourself to, like, no worries. Enjoy your days in London, because I think when Xhaka first came through as just like a link, I was like, yeah, like, okay, why are we doing that? That's ridiculous. I thought it was agent speak for Granit Xhaka wants to come back to the Premier League. Look, he's available.
Yeah.
Will you use Sunderland as that? And when he ended up turning up, and it's exciting because we've signed another player from PSG. I can't pronounce his surname, so I won't bother trying to do it. But he played with Xhaka at Leverkusen last year, and he said that because he was on loan there, he said he supported Granit Xhaka and what's happening at Sunderland, he wanted to be part of it, and he just packed his bags and signed a 4-year contract. And this is a player who apparently was really good on Football Manager, which means nothing, but has played for PSG, good amount of games, played for Bayer Leverkusen. And some of the players that are coming in, like the goalkeeper had Roof had a great debut on Saturday, and he was arguably the best goalkeeper at the under-21 tournament in the summer. I think statistically and on paper, and a lot of people's just opinions based on watching the games. So I feel like the players we brought in is a lot. It's more than I expected, but you need to do that. I think you need to spend big, especially if you're the club that comes through the playoffs. I mean, look, I know we wrote off the last 5 games. Like, I don't think we were 21 or 24 points worse than Leeds and Burnley last season, based on the games we played against both. But there was a big gap between us. That's a fact. So we clearly need to bring more in. But I think the fact that we've decided to sign real Premier League experience and really high quality Premier League experience. I know Xhaka's 32, 33 next month, but everyone knows what he offers. For him to sign for a Premier League club is like beyond my wildest dreams. And then the players around him have a bit of Premier League experience without kind of delving too far away from the model. And they've hit the mark with most of the signings they've made. I know we wanted a Dingra in January, and there was discussion of him being a swap deal with Watson. It didn't happen. We've obviously ended up signing him and paying 20-odd mil, and Brighton fans are like, oh, I really like the Dingra. It's just the fact that Matoma is better. It gears up to be a good season, and I think if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have gone, we look a bit weak in defence. We need some defenders bringing in, but then we've ended up signing 2 centre-halves. Alderete came in. The boy from PSG's come in. Ballard's turned into the next coming of, I don't know, Charlie Early, whoever. Oh, yeah. He's turned into it's just, like, the boys just, the last 4 games, is 4 of the best centre-half performances I've ever seen any centre-half put in for Sunderland. It's been unbelievable.
We nearly signed him as well before he went to you guys. I'm not sure if we turned him down or he turned you down. I'm not sure. But I have been looking at his recent performances and thinking, I mean, he's no Steve, but imagine Ballard and Steve next to each other. Nobody's getting past.
My biggest worry is if he continues with that, someone's going to go, how about 40 mil and football's football? But I think I've given you like the long answer here because there's just so much that has happened. But we've signed Premier League experience, we've signed good young players, and we've previously got a really good record with signing since Stu Harvey's been in charge of scouting. Christian Speakman's been in. We've had a couple of dodgy ones, maybe 18 months, 2 years ago. The ones recently been good, and they've been supplemented by Premier League experience. And I don't think there's many better signings a club of our size that I just came up could have made than Xhaka, just based on not the quality he's got, like the leadership he's going to bring. I don't think there's many people he could bring in better. So I'm delighted. If they want to add another couple of centre forwards and another couple of centre halves to that and spend another 100 mil, I'm going to have no issue with it. But I feel one more centre half, another winger, and I feel pretty set.
Yeah, well, obviously, looking at the result on Saturday, maybe you are set. There's a couple of things I want to ask. Like, where the hell is all the? I know you sold Bellingham. I remember when you were lining up against Sheffield United at Wembley. Someone said to me, "Who do you want to win?" I said it would be hilarious if Sunderland win, because Sheffield United have been battling with Burnley for the last 3 years. I've got nothing against Sheffield United. I actually respect them quite a lot because we've just been there and together for years. But the fact that you were playing them, that would be hilarious. And someone said, well, no, because Sunderland are a massive club. Obviously, I'm aware of how big Sunderland are. I'm not stupid. Yeah. And they have a lot of money. If they come up, they will spend big. And I was like, what? Will they? Since when? And then obviously you've come up and spent big. So educate me. Have you got some ridiculously rich owners that I wasn't aware of? What's going on?
I think they're pretty rich, but I think because Kirill Louis-Dreyfus, who's our chairman, our owner, he's the son of the Marseille family, the Dreyfuses, who had like shed loads of money. But I get the feeling that he's found the family credit card and his mum's not realised yet, if I'm completely honest. But the one thing I've never done is try to delve too deep into like the financials of football, because A, it scares me, B, it makes me sad, and C, it just makes me go, the game's gone instead.
Yeah,
but
the game's well and truly gone, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the penalty yesterday for Leeds. It's completely gone.
What's he supposed to do? Just chop his arm off? Parky, you better than that. Come on, mate. Come on,
apparently
mate.
What he wants. But I think I think it's a lot to do with the fact that we've got a lot of headroom. We've made a lot of money. We sold Jack Clark last summer as well for 15 mil, which is weirdly really worked out for us.
Look at where he is now.
I know. I mean, Kieran McKenna's playing him the wrong way, but look, it's not I'm not going to shout about things that are not in my house anymore. But I think it's a case of we've quite clearly spent I don't think we spent more than, I can't think of a signing over 2.5 million since being in the Championship. I could be wrong with that because I haven't checked it all, but I can't think of one. We brought in $1 million and a half young players from abroad on cheaper deals here and there. Like I think Ballard was 2 million when we brought him in 3 years ago. I think Patrick Roberts was a free transfer. He ended up being 2 million because we got promoted and that was part of the deal. But I can't think of many big transfers in that. And look, there's been points in the Championship where it's frustrated me that we haven't spent 8 million on Kiefer Moore. Stupid me. This is why I'm a football fan and not a businessman. Lo and behold, it was actually Kiefer Moore that helped us get promoted. But, that's a different story entirely. Nice assist. But I think we just haven't overspent. And then I think it's all been a plan all along. When we get the Premier League, we're going to need to spend. And that's why we're going to have to try and get up in this particular way of signing young players with resale value, get ourselves up there. When once we're there, we can spend the cash and we can change the plan and change the model a little bit. I do find it funny that because quite clearly Fabrizio Romano gets tipped off by someone at the club because
it's clearly got some fingers in everybody. He's also an agent mouthpiece as well, so it could be an agent that's got a lot of Sunderland players or something.
Every player I think we signed, I think the first 6 or 7 has said, our player wants to join Sunderland's ambitious project. So we've gone from the model to the ambitious project. So I think he's helped push that narrative, which, I'm not going to argue with because we've signed well. But I genuinely don't know where the money's come from in terms of the PSR and all that stuff. I've got no clue how that works. Like I've got no real desire outside of seeing Newcastle fans have a total meltdown over the fact that I can't just buy everything because that's not how football works. Who would have known? But I think it's been a case of we haven't spent much. We brought in good money. We brought in 15 mil for Jack Clark, 35 for Job, or 35 million euros, and then 10, 12 million or something for Tommy Watson. So I think we've got headroom on top of the fact that you make a lot of money by going up. We went up in the richest game in the world, apparently. And look, ultimately, I trust their financial side of it because they've been quite stringent over the years with financials. Everything's great with something like the stadium looks brilliant at the minute. They've done loads of updates to the stadium. They've probably spent a few million on that. Wherever they've found it and whatever they've done, they've seemed to have hit gold up until we lose on Saturday, of course. But
fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, for you, yeah. But we've done we've done really well, and the money that's spent has been spent, I think, really wisely, as much as it's been a lot, and hopefully it pays off because. I know everyone thinks they're a massive football club, but I really think Sunderland have so much potential and always have to. My thought process is I'm not saying we're bigger than West Ham, but if West Ham can win a European trophy, a Sunderland can one day in my lifetime, and that's always like my ambition to just see us win something and have your day out.
I'll just happily win a football match at this stage. No, I'm joking. The one thing that I want to see Burnley do now, I've seen us do. We've won the league at Ewood Park. I've seen us play in the Premier League. We've won at Old Trafford. We've won at Anfield. We've won at the Emirates. We've won at Stamford Bridge. I've seen us do everything now apart from win a major honour. So I'll take the League Cup. I'm not asking for a European trophy like you. Just give me a League Cup and I can die a happy man.
I would like to we haven't won a cup, unfortunately. We got to a final in my lifetime and it was against Man City. And Man City fans were coming out going, oh, that was nice. And they're just like, I've seen the club who won things all of the time where they were picking and choosing. And look, I think City are a great fan base, but they were kind of picking and choosing which finals they could go to. I'd never want to be that team.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to win the Premier League or be in the chance to win the Premier League every year, but just one day in the sun. And I think Sunderland are big enough to do that if everything goes well. And for the first time in a long time since I was a kid that knew nothing about football, I finally think, in the next 10 years, if things go to plan, we might have a chance at having a bit of fun. And that's all football is, isn't it? Just a bit of fun.
Yeah. Well, if Palace can win the FA Cup, then either of us can win. Again, that's not a dig at Palace.
No, but
I was buzzing to see them win it. Like you just said, it's better to see the underdogs win it. But anyway, one thing I do want to go into before, because obviously I'm aware of time because we're pushing 25 minutes now. what's this Mexico thing all about? Because I noticed that Sunderland put a poster, but those are Mexicans underneath it. And then some guy quotes me like, what's with up Mexicans? And then when you messaged me the other day, you've had a Mexico flag in your name. And I'm like, what's going on with this Sunderland and Mexico loving? Great country, by the way. I went quite a few years ago to Cancun. Brilliant place. But something I don't understand at the minute. What is it with Sunderland and Mexico?
Mexicans are clearly mad to begin with because they're a
Yes.
good laugh.
Yeah.
I don't really know where it came from. Apparently, there's a deeper meaning towards it. I don't know what the deeper meaning is, but I think some website, some big Twitter page said they're going to pick an English team to support this year, and they've decided to choose Sunderland. And all of these people, just when we went on Saturday, were just in our comments, like just Mexican comments and like commenting the Mexican flag and everything. And it was just like, where's this come from? And then someone says, oh, it's come from this. And it's just been non-stop. And I thought it'd be a good bit of a laugh to change my Twitter profile or whatever it would be Mexican.
Yeah.
I probably absolutely like butchered it, to be completely honest with you. But whatever I wrote probably means something completely different, like those Chinese tattoos people used to get back in the day. But
I've got one on my arm, by the way. I've got one on my arm. Just so you know, it's Japanese or mine, I think. No, is it? It's one of them. It's one of them.
No, I'll not say what you think it does.
Just before you slag it off, don't worry. I've got one right there, mate. I've got one right there.
It's going to say something you don't think it means, isn't it? You think it says Burnley to die, but it says Blackburn.
No, well, the thing is, it's funny you say that, and I probably should tell this story on the podcast. But I had a dog when I was growing up called Rebel, right? And he died when I was 21. And that's my first experience of death at the time. We're getting deep here for a free game show. So I decided then I'm going to get a tattoo that says Rebel in Chinese on my arm, right? And I know how languages work. When you translate something and translate it back, it's never the same, right? And me and all the lads who once on an away game, Leicester away, actually, Ross Wallace scored a free kick in the 97th minute. Go on, Ross.
Ross Wallace.
Yeah, and there was some Chinese lads on train, and one of the lads said, hey, lads, you'll get your tattoo up. What does that say? Can you tell me what that says? And one of them says, Judas. And I was like, hey, don't even say it, Rebel. That's how languages work, lads. That's how languages work. But anyway, we digress. Let's get into predict. I'm going to get loads of banter for that in the comments, aren't I? I don't know why I told that. So I tell people stories sometimes, and I think, why have I done that? And now I'm doing it on the podcast.
Why not?
Yeah, I hope nobody sees me on Saturday. I might wear a hat. Yeah, predictions then, please, mate. I'll go first because I've already told you mine. Even though I'm not very confident with the season and things like that, I do think we edge this game. I just feel like we will go tighter. We will go back to basics. We will have some people back in the squad that weren't in the squad for the Tottenham game. I'm hoping, the likes of Brogy gets a run out. I'm hoping the likes of Ugochukwu gets starts alongside Cullen. And people like that, and obviously then you've got the likes of Dubravka, who's got a game under his belt, and maybe Ekdal and Walker, they've got games under their belts as well, and Hartman, maybe Roberts will be back. I don't know. We are recording this on Tuesday, by the way, which is ridiculously early for me. It's just because I'm working for the rest of the week. So if anything comes out that I've mentioned there, that someone's injured or is back in the team, I do apologise. The press conference obviously isn't until Thursday. But I think Burnley edge it. I'm going for a tight 1-0 Burnley win. What about you, Graham?
I just think 0-0 because I've been to Burnley twice. It was 0-0. Last year was 0-0. I think both teams have a tendency to sit back and be defensively solid first and foremost. It's a better result for us than it is for you, definitely, because I think, for right or wrong reasons, we both got the fixture list and went, that's a win. That's where we can win a game. We both did it. But if you'd said to me, we'll beat West Ham and get a draw against Burnley, and then you've got Brentford at home on the Saturday, I'd probably snap your hand off because that's.
I'd snap your hand off for them fixtures, mate. Not that we can play against ourselves, but just substitute the Burnley for the Sunderland one. I will rip you up. I know we mentioned it on your podcast, but our fixtures are a disgrace compared to yours and Leeds. It's unfair, is what it is.
It's pretty. I can't even lie. It's pretty bad. Like when they came out, the first five. I think Villa's won in the first five, and we were like, Palace has won, and Palace look decent. So there's no such thing as an easy game in the Premier League, but we've got a December fixture list that has like Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Newcastle. It's like, and you've got that right at the start, which is really when you don't want it. But I think 0-0, mate, because it's always been 0-0. I've been, like I said, twice. Last year it was 0-0. It seems destined to be 0-0. But as boring as it might be that it's 0-0, I'm going on Saturday, and I'd really snap your hand off for anything that's not a negative result, which would be a draw.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll wrap it up there, mate. But before we do you want to ever know where they can find you and your content if they want to digest some SAFC content. Of course, I've just recorded something before this, so if you want to see my dulcet tones again, you can head over to that. Or where could they find it, mate?
Yeah, on Twitter, if you just go on at WTF Sunderland Pod, it's pretty much just memes and stuff, and I can be bothered and just, it's not like that entertaining. But the podcast itself, which occasionally can be entertaining, or so I've been told, is on like Spotify, YouTube. The normal place is just WTF Sunderland, and you'll find it no bother. Listen to it. If you win, you might have a laugh.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll drive to work on Monday, laughing my head off.
With my dulcet tones.
Yes, hopefully. But we'll see. But yeah, Graham, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. Obviously, those who watch the podcast regularly will be fully aware of who you are, and we'll have seen you on here quite a lot. So I'm sure we'll link up again later in the season, and hopefully next season in the Premier League.
I always like them on because your viewers are always really nice about me. It gives me a nice validation, confidence boost.
Yeah, they are. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I only get banter in the comments now about my tattoo story, and everyone's like, this Graham lad's a great lad.
They always are very nice. So to the people who like us, thanks very much. It's a nice bit of validation from you, which I, of course, as a nearly 40-year-old man, desperately need.
Yeah, and everyone loves a bit of validation. Some people spend their lives chasing it, mate. But Graham, thanks for going on the show. It's an absolute pleasure. And like I said, we will link up later in the season.
Cheers, pal.